Well, good afternoon. I have the pleasure of introducing Yanping Ma, who is a dear colleague from Loyola Marymount in Los Angeles, but also the co-organizer of this conference. She's going to talk to us about some familiar things with ODEs, and for some of us, some new things using Desmos as a software. So Yanping, you're on.
Thank you, Brian. So thanks everyone for coming. And well, I'm the last talk for today, so I'll make it quick.
No,
So
no,
why,
that's okay.
why I'm here? So basically, I learned about this project from the Mindy workshop, and we're gonna do. Brian is gonna do several shorter version of it in the later this month. So I want to encourage you to join if you never had a chance to join one of those Mindy workshops. I learned about this project there, and I use it in my calculus for life science and ordinary differential equation class, and it has some really good feedbacks, but there are definitely frustrations. And I'm planning to reusing it this semester with slight modifications. And if time permits, I will talk about grade scope as well, if you have never heard of that. So Loyola Marymount University, we are in Los Angeles. We're about 5 minutes away from the Los Angeles airport. We are a Catholic university, kind of big, but our math program is really, really small. So we have about 15 math major undergraduate each year. So most of our courses are serving engineering students. We have big engineering programs. So I personally do biomathematics modeling. So I have been doing a lot of research projects that's relevant using differential equations, such as HIV prevention. We are doing EPI study with a health belief model, and their cancer metastasis modeling, blood clotting with warfarin treatment, and so on and so forth. So I personally use differential equation a lot in my own research. So I kind of feel excited when teaching this course. However, I also have regular conversations with my other colleagues who keep talking about how frustrated he felt about teaching this course because he thinks it's very boring, not interesting at all. He did partial differential equation study in his past life. Now he does machine learning. And also our students sometimes also ask me the question, like, why exactly do we need to learn about this? It's kind of like feels abstract. So thanks to Brian introduced us to this modeling first approach. And I do think after I learned from Simeo like 3-4 years ago, I realized this is a way to solve the problem, to get students engaged, to make things interesting for us as teachers as well. So modeling in the classroom definitely have a lot of benefit. Well, I don't have to dive into the details. You're part of the conference because you feel most likely the same way. But one thing I want to mention is the last thing is that I want to help. I'm hoping using more modeling would help would have the introduction of the topic more interesting, and students feel less stressed about basic algebra and feel more confident about their mathematical understanding. So the key is, of course, model it early, solve the problems, and solve those problems numerically. The general idea is just to the spread of the common code. So if you have not heard about this project before, the idea is basically we bring cups, bins, or MMs to the class. We also bring dorm maps. So basically, students would be assigned in groups, and they will be in charge of different portion of this activity. The students would be dropping, well, first count 40 beans, put them into the cups, and then set a subset of it to be to represent infected people. So for example, they can remove 4 beans of a particular color and change them into a different color, and those are representing the infected group. And then they drop the beans into the cup and then pour it onto the map, and just to count how many of those infected beings stay with those susceptible beings, so they will be infected. And then they record the data. For example, we say we start with 40, 4 of those were infected, so 36 was susceptible. They drop the beings onto the map. They do the counting, how many more are infected, right? And the judge makes the decision if there's some boundary case where the being is just, lights falls onto the intersection of the border of two dorms. So it can get all students engaged, and then they can keep recording the data and then fill out this whole table, right? So here's the field table where we keep track of the number of susceptibles and number of infected students. And then they keep updating the table until all students are infected. Well, so I have talked about this before, so I'm not going to dive into the details. I do want to mention, once we have this table filled out, right? So we also want to calculate the rate of change. I mean, that's the key of our differential equation model. So we calculated how the infected derivative is going to be like, which is the last row of the table. I mean, we count how many students get infected in each group, and we count the change of infection, and we average out two tables adjacent to one another just to make our data a little bit more smooth. And then we record the rate of change in all the tables. So once we have all the data prepared, which is the most interesting step for a lot of students, we begin to analyze them and try to understand it and try to build our model, right? Modeling is the key. So we ask students to plot the data, plot the susceptible count versus time, plot the infected count versus time, plot the infected derivative versus time, and also plot infected derivative versus the infected case. So there are many interesting struggles I observe while doing this activity. So for example, beings are running everywhere. Some students have difficulty controlling where to do the job. So their beings don't add up to 40 anymore. So there's some kind of struggle. Some of them have difficulty understanding the instruction. Some of them have difficulty understanding the model, which is the key part I'm going to talk about in a second. And they have difficulty plot the graph and build the model. That's the key part I'm going to talk about. And of course, occasionally they lose track of the group members, and they have difficulty handling ugly data. And also, I have several students asking me the question all those years, saying they feel uncomfortable trying to get as many beings affected as possible. They feel unethical about this whole process. So when we plot the data, some of the struggles, like I said, was they plot the data. I said we're going to use Desmos. So in Desmos, it's very easy to plot how the rate of change is going to be like versus time. So students most of the time have no issue trying to understand how they may potentially build the model with respect to time. But once we move on to another scenario, when we ask students to choose among 4 different cases, which are my AB here and my CD here, we say, hey, what might be a good option among the 4 options to be a great way to model this whole process of infection that you just observed? And most students have difficulty understanding the second group, the equation D and C here. So that's why I realize it's actually super, super important for us to allow our students, my bad, sorry about that, to allow our students to, I don't see my Chrome. Okay, it is here. To use Desmos to plot the graph, and so they can capture the idea easily. So what I'm trying to do is that, well, I have to admit, I have not implemented this version with my student, the Desmos version with my student just yet. There's a big fire at the beginning of the semester. We're in Los Angeles. So in the first week, when I should be doing this, the week before, I got students emailing me they can't come to class because of that fire. So I was not able to actually have it completely set up for them to use. We are doing Laplace transform right now. After we finish Laplace transform, we will be doing this project. So students will be plotting the data with the help of Desmos, right? So as you can tell, I plot those points one by one. I don't know about you all. I did learn something earlier about in one of those other talks. So here's just a quick if you have an Excel form open, and have your data input put in there, you actually do not need to input the data one by one. All you need to do is just copy the Excel table and just paste it. It'll automatically form the whole table for you. So it's pretty nice and pretty straightforward, which I had no idea until yesterday when I was setting another talk of this conference. So once we have the data inputted into Desmos, there are many ways we can manipulate it. And if you click on the side, so let me try to demonstrate it one more time. Just copy from Excel, right, the table, and you just paste it. It's gonna automatically show up. And then you just click on the side, add regression, and then you can choose whatever regression you want this Desmos to generate for you automatically. So students would be able to see what might be a good option that can actually mimic the behavior of this model. The good thing about it is it's also generating the parameters needed to make this model reasonable for you. Because one of the biggest frustration I have is when I explain my model to the students, when I introduce the coefficient A, B, and C, they find it very hard to plot the graph and trying to imagine how to build the connection between the derivative and the data because there are too many things that's unknown. They have difficulty plotting it. Of course, another way to think about it is not using the automatically generated graph, is just to use a slider. So for example, let me just go back to here. Let me make sure I hide my other data. Here's my data of model 4, which is not happy with me right now. It's not showing, the data not showing up. Come on, come on. Come on. Okay, this is showing up, but this one is not happy for some reason. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. I clicked the wrong button. So let me hide the automatically generated curve, right? So one thing we can do if we were to ask our students to play around with this a little bit is that we can ask them to plot the data and then use the slider to adjust the expressions, the parameters we have here, which of course is not as fancy as the automatically generated ones, but it gives us students the opportunity to see how different variables might be affecting a different portion of our simulations. And if they want, they can actually add a different slider, right? They could add different parameters into it to do the study. And of course, we started with 40 beings, so we better go with that. Right? So it would allow our students to actually play with actual numbers and being able to connect the graphs. So now it doesn't really matter whether this whole thing depends on time or depends on the number of infected students anymore. We can put all the graphs together, right? And then try to plot the graphs with built-in slides and parameters for us to adjust so they can see clearly the connection and understand different effects of the parameters or even the sensitivity of our model with respect to different parameters. So I feel like this is a big improvement and can remove some of the mysteries they had, and all the submissions they would have would also be beautiful. So that's something I really like, and I would consider. I'm planning to do in the semester after we wrap up Laplace transform. So we are going to do this Desmos demonstration and this common flu infection model in our class with beans, cups, and everything. So this is just one quick thing I want to mention. The other thing I want to talk about is this. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up the right page. I'm actually super, super excited about this thing. Right now, I used it like 3 days ago. Sorry, let me find my right link to share. There are multiple pages.
So, question,
Yes.
Desmos is totally free, right?
Yes, thanks for asking. Desmos is completely free, and you
quite
don't have
easy.
to sign up for an account. You can just Google Desmos graphing and it's gonna work out. If you want to save anything you would like to use in the future, then you need an account.
And even that's free, right?
Even that's free. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say a couple more words about this new thing, which is a great scope. I'm not paid by them, to just a quick disclaimer. If you have never used it before, I highly recommend this, and I'm just gonna show the idea very briefly. As you can see, I'm new to this. I just graded my first quiz in here. So the idea is pretty nice. You can do free trial first, and just want to walk you through very quickly. I enabled anonymous grading, and I think that's one beauty about this. So when you grade the work, you don't really know who the students you are grading for. So it makes sure you don't, bias towards any students. I know we don't, but I mean, there's a tendency that you can't really 100% sure, you can't really control yourself every time. The only extra step you need to do compared to your usual way of grading is that when you design your quiz, what you need to do is you don't have to, but I did. I box different regions a little bit just to make sure my student understand where to put their name. So it's easier for the system, the Gradescope website, to recognize it. And then all I need to do is to add different region. For example, you can see I can add a question. It's gonna have a new box appear here. You just drag the box, make sure the cover the problem you want to grade about. This is my problem number 1. This is my problem number 2. I did plot the box to make sure my students know they have to put their answers in it. So all you need to do is just add some boxes, which is extremely straightforward. If you don't want to, you don't have to. So once you have this, the next thing for you to do is you don't have to create rubric, by the way. So the next thing for you to do is just to scan the student's work, right? After you scan it, you can scan all the copies together. You don't have to scan it one by one. So I scanned all 70 copies, well, 2 sections, so that's about 35. So I have 2 scanned. That's done very quickly with the help of our scanner. And all you need to do, it's automatically matching the student's ID number with their names, with their record in the gradebook. Since I enabled anonymous grading, so it's actually not showing students' name to me at all. So when I grade each student work, I don't know who I'm grading for. Okay, and just to show you very quickly how it might look like, after you scan it, this is how the work. So, you scan it, right? Scan all students' work. It automatically match student's name and ID number. It's with what's in the record. Occasionally, they forget to write their full name. They forget to write their student ID number. But since you put all students' name, it's just one button, import, very easy, one Excel file. So you can easily import all students' work. So you can just edit automatically if one of those were not, imported correctly. So go back to where I was. So once I did that, let's go back to my anonymous grading. I can begin to grade my students' work. So when I grade my students' work, as you can see, I don't really see who is who. And the student's name and ID number are actually blanked out. I can't even see it even if I try. And it only you can choose to ask the problem to show you the full page or just the particular problem you are grading. I guess because I finished grading already, it's showing me the whole page right now. So during this grading process, you can add a different rubric. So for example, the first one I said, you lose 0 point. It means your first step is correct. You lose 0 point if your second step is correct. Those two were blanketed because I choose those two as comments to be left to my students' work. So later when they read their work, they understand, oh, first part is correct, second part is correct. And then I can choose other things that to subtract points to. For example, I said you didn't calculate round step size correctly. There's some algebraic mistakes. You have the wrong formulation used. And of course, it's very easy to leave marks. So you can point out where are the places of having those issues. It's extremely easy to add rubric. And also the thing I like the most is, I don't know about you, I go back and forth about how many points to subtract each time. If that's something you want to do in this case, you just modify your rubric. It automatically adjusts the whole thing for all students, automatically recalculate the grade. So it's extremely efficient. And you can look at the problem for each student, grade one at a time, one problem at a time for all the students, right? So it's extremely efficient and easy to modify, and it guarantees fairness, and it's very easy to correct your gradings. And it automatically calculates the grade distribution for you. And you can see the statistics about all the problems. For example, problem number 1, like what's the average, what's the mean, right? And what's the minimum, what's the median? I'm not using the tags yet. So like I said, this is also, I'm also new to this, but I find this an extremely good experience. And I highly recommend you to consider, try it. Great scope, it's free, and they give you free institutional trials. And they would be more than happy to schedule one-on-one meetings to give you an introduction and go through it with you. I really find it's extremely efficient in terms of grading, and it definitely makes the grading whole process much more equitable to all students. You don't really bias towards one another because they hide all the students' actual information in it. So I quite enjoy that. So it's an early stage for me, but I really enjoyed it, and hopefully you all can try a little bit. Hopefully it's going to be a fun experience for you too.